Hey guys, this is Noah here. I'm going to be doing an instruction video today on how to set up snowboard bindings for a 2x4 mount snowboard for freestyle riding specifically. Since it's going to be for freestyle riding, you're going to want a twin stance for that, which is going to be symmetrical on both sides instead of leaning more to the tail of the board. And this is going to help with getting a more symmetrical feel while riding switch, and that's going to help in the park because a lot of tricks are going to be with switch riding and switching back and forth, and you're going to want that more asymmetrical feel. It's also going to help with creating more pop in the nose and tail of the board, and that's going to be able to help you with ollies and other kind of features in the park. So now let's get into what you're going to need to set up the snowboard. Okay, so I moved away the table and the snowboard and backed up the camera a bit so we can get a bit of a better shot here for what we're going to be doing in figuring out your ride stance. So in the snowboarding world, there's two different types of ride stances. There is regular, which is with your left foot forward facing down the slope, and then there is goofy, which is with your right foot forward facing down the slope. So what we're going to be doing to figure that out is we're going to be replicating a scene out of Risky Business. Yes, that scene where Tom Cruise is running around the house with his socks on, sliding around. So, what you want to do is you want to get a bit of a running head start. You want to run and slide. And whichever foot you comfortably put forward subconsciously is going to be your front foot, sorry. So mine was obviously my left foot. So that makes me a regular. And then if your right foot was forward in the slide, it would make you goofy. And remember, whenever you're testing out these and trying to figure out your ride stance, this is not down to an exact science. So if you think you're regular, you might actually not be regular. You could possibly be goofy. I've had multiple different people who have come to me and said that they tested and they thought that they were regular, but they've actually ended up being goofy after trying it out a couple times, riding regular, and just not really getting a hang of it. Okay, let's go over what we need now to set up the snowboard bindings. So first, we're obviously going to need a type of Phillips screwdriver to screw in the screws and set up the bindings. Next, we're going to need a snowboard. Since this is a 2x4 mount, you're going to need a 2x4 mount snowboard. Next, you're going to need your right and left bindings. We'll go more into detail on those later. And then you're going to need disc plates, 2 disc plates, 1 for each binding. And then you're going to need 8 screws and also 8 washers with those screws. If you're having trouble figuring out which screw is which, it's normally the one with Loctite on them. I don't know if you could really tell in the video, but there's a bit of blue Loctite on these screws, and that's normally how you can figure out which screws are going to be the ones that go inside of your bindings. Okay, so now that we have the board moved down here on the floor, we're going to now be able to figure out where a foot stance would be for the bindings. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go and stand on the board and kind of get nice loosey-goosey, like as if you were actually riding the board. Okay, now that I'm nice and loose and kind of got my feet stance where I feel comfortable on the board, I'm going to want to look at the screws and kind of make a mental note on where my feet were. So looking at where my stance is, I'm going to want to be more towards the inner part of these screws, probably around these first 3 rows. So now I'm going to make a mental note of that for whenever I'm putting on my bindings later. Now that we know where we want the bindings on the board, we're going to be looking to adjusting the drive plate to where we can get the right riding angle on them. So we're going to want to take this and put it to a good old positive 12. So you move it over right there. That's going to be positive 12 for the front. And then the other one's already adjusted to a negative 12. So now what you're going to want to do from there is you're going to want to take a screw and a washer and put 1 in each binding. Just hand tight for now. Nothing too crazy, so just to get it into the threads there. Put it in there. Make sure it grabs. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do next is we're going to want to adjust these so we can go forward and back. We're going to want to make sure that this is going to be in a good enough spot so where we're going to have even feel on both sides. So from right here right there is going to be good. Now we're going to be able to put in our other screws so we won't adjust as much. And boom. Make sure when you're putting in these screws, you're not putting them in super tight, or else you can actually crack your board and the core of your board. That would not be a good time. Just make sure just to get them tight, but not too tight. Now that is nice and snug, and that binding is not going to go anywhere. Okay, I tightened the other screws off camera there just so we didn't get the video too long. So now that all the screws are set up and nice and tight, and the bindings are set up with the proper riding angle, we're ready to just do the final step, which is just putting in the drive plate. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it, slide it in right there, and then boom. Now that you hear that, you know it's good. Okay, now what you're going to do next is on the other side, same exact thing, slide it in, push down, boom. Now your board is set up for freestyle riding. Have fun on the slopes.